talk about critical thinking in extremism. Over the weekend on one of the news political shows, I heard one of the pundits say, America has never seen a time where it was actually at war without physically being at war, because people have dug in on both sides, on the Republican side, on the Democrat side, on the right and the left, and it's never happened before, and what's the future of the country? Becoming a moderation. Looking at things more toward the middle as opposed to in the extreme. Think about what's happening. Now, this might have been brought on by President Trump becoming president and kind of bringing out some extreme views, or maybe it was something else. I'm not sure. The Me Too movement was probably part of this as well. These aren't bad things necessarily, but they're things that seem to embolden extreme points of view. So suddenly, every man that said something to a woman that sounded like it might be a little offbeat was sexual harassment, right? And another example would be politics. Everyone that was for President Trump, people on the left say everyone that was for President Trump is now a right-wing radical, and everyone that was for Joe Biden is a left-wing radical. Everything is extreme right now. If you look at COVID comes out, Dr. Anthony Fauci, one of the top health experts, books have been written about this guy, okay? And there are people like Rand Paul saying, well, this guy's a crook, he's profiting off it, we ought to be investigated. These are people taking these super extreme points of view. And the history of this country is coming together, both left and right. It's the same thing right now with gun control, right? We've got all these mass shootings going on. These little kids have been killed and all these terrible things over the weekend. We had 11 more mass shootings around America. I mean, it's obviously out of control, but the extreme side, let's say the left in this case, says, well, you have to take away all guns. Well, the extreme right says you're not going to take away our guns. These extreme sides cannot coexist. We've got to meet in the middle. Extremism, almost by definition, has no credibility. That's why the Me Too movement is bound to fail. When Johnny Depp won the case last week against Amber Heard, that was an example of a crack in the concept of the Me Too movement. Not everything a man says to a woman is offensive. A lot of women like to be flirted with, right? And some don't, and I get it. I'm not trying to embolden people that take advantage of a situation, but not everything is an extreme. And it seems like for the last 4 or 5, 6 years, everything is extreme. The right's digging in and the left's digging in, and we have to come together. There is no other way to coexist. That's not just in America, but in the world. And that's the history of the world. Coming together, coming up with some kind of middle view. Typically, extreme points of view have no proof. They have no data. If Rand Paul and his cohorts could prove that Anthony Fauci was a criminal and not a public servant for the last 50 years of his life, they would prove it, but they can't. If the far left could prove without a shadow of a doubt that if you take guns out of America, that all these mass shootings will stop, they would prove it, but they can't. If the far right could prove that it wouldn't make any difference if they took guns away, they would prove it, but they can't. Extreme points of view are very, very difficult to prove. It's like religious points of view, extreme religious points of view. They have no credibility because they can't be backed up with proof or data or evidence. And contrary to what some people say, if it was proof and evidence, well, then every single person in the world would be religious, and that's clearly not the case. Political views are like that. Religious views are like that. Gun control, abortion, it's a whole other subject. People are saying, well, you can't have an abortion now. This is some people's point of view. No matter what, doesn't matter if a person is raped, it doesn't matter what happens, you absolutely never, ever can have an abortion. That's an extreme point of view. It won't hold water. It never has. People will go around and do it anyway. Same thing if you take all the guns away. You don't think people will get guns? I can go on, and you can go on any street in America in a downtown area, look around like you're looking for something for 15 minutes. You can buy drugs, guns, or anything else you want in about 15 minutes. It's not hard to get those things. It's not hard to get something illegally. It's actually extremely easy. It's called the black market and the gray market. And it's very easy to do. So making something illegal doesn't necessarily take it away. It just creates another market for it at maybe an inflated price. Okay? But extremism, here's my point. Critical thinking on extremism is it has no credibility and it cannot stand the test of time. It never has. And I don't think it ever will. No different than Putin right now in Ukraine. It's to say this is all about critical thinking at the end of the day. That's really what I'm talking about. I'm just giving real world examples. Putin is threatening the West, threatening to wipe out NATO if our weapons happen to touch Russian land. Of course, and NATO is saying on the other end of the scale, a spectrum, NATO is saying, hey, if you hit a NATO country, well, we're coming after you. Okay, well, this is not in the best interests of Russia or NATO or not the civilized world, the world in general, because nuclear weapons will end the world. So we all know that, and we know we can't go there. Okay, so we've got to come to some kind of middle ground. Even if we think the other side is completely wrong, we have to coexist. Critical thinking says we must coexist, or we will wipe ourselves out politically, religious-wise, war-wise, and any other example you want to use. So critical thinking, and to wrap this up in a bow, I know this is a long post. Critical thinking says that extremism has no credibility and it has no sustainability. So that's my thought on it. That's what we teach companies every day, to think in terms of critical thinking and back things up by data, evidence, and proof. And this concept actually has a lot of proof to it. All you have to do is look at the recorded history of the world, and you'll see that extremism has no credibility and no sustainability. So that's my opinion on that. Love to hear yours. Thanks for watching the blog. See you next time.